Hi everybody, welcome to a storytime video. First one that I've ever done, I think, on this channel, but I'm Nicole, and here we go. So I just graduated from university, yay me, 7 years, 2 degrees, woo. And I thought that since I have just graduated, or I did, I guess, back in April, but I thought it would be a good time to reflect on past experiences in university. Now, I went to a university out of the city that I live in, so I lived on campus because that was the easiest option for me. I was taking a theater degree, and I didn't have a car at that time. I didn't even drive at that time. I had my learners, but not my full permit. So I didn't have a car, didn't drive, so I lived on campus because that was just easier. Since I was doing a theater degree, I had a lot of shows that I was in, backstage, on stage, whatever, but anyone who's worked in theater will know that usually rehearsal goes sometimes until ridiculous hours in the night, and that gets even worse during tech week, the week running up to the start of the show. So I was sometimes getting back from rehearsal at like 12:30 to my dorm, and the city that I was going to school in didn't really have a great bus system. Like, they stopped running the buses at like 10 p.m. and it's going to get real expensive for poor little first year me if I had to take a cab home every single night. So I lived on campus. That was fine. Now, the style of residence that I was living in was like a dormitory style. So it was like the floor, right? There was about, I don't even know, about 50 of us, I think. Split like fairly evenly between guys and girls, and the way that this floor was set up was there was 2 doors onto the main floor, and you had to use your student ID to swipe to get in, which usually prevented, you know, like weird random people just ending up in your dormitory. So there was one door on one end and there was one door on the other end. Now, when you walked in through the one door, immediately to either side of you there were 2 doors leading into the suites. And the suites were essentially 4 individual rooms, and then they had their own little common room and kitchen and like bathroom and stuff, and those were obviously more expensive, but you did get your own room, which was nice. So there was 2 suites on either, or there was 1 suite on either side of the door, so 8 rooms right there, and then there was the same thing on the other side. So in the whole dormitory, there was 4 suites. And then after the suites, so you're like walking in a little bit more, there's like a big wall, with my hand, big wall right in front of you. And then to either side of you, there are 2, so on each side, there were 2 individual rooms. Now, on one side, the one door onto the floor was the one that everybody used the most because it was the closest one when you were coming down from classes and stuff. So we had one RA's room like on this side. Our RA was the residence assistant, so usually it was someone in 2nd year or 3rd year sometimes who was just there to act as a guide. They would plan like floor events and stuff so that we would all get to know each other. They were there if you're having a problem with your roommates or, you know, a problem with somebody else or whatever, you know, just so that it wasn't like 50 first years just going crazy. So we had 2 RAs, 1 guy and 1 girl. And the girl was her room was on the side like closest to the busiest door, and then our other RA was on the other side of the dorm. And the dorm was split. Basically, girls were on the left and boys' rooms were on the right, but essentially it was the same setup for everything. So when you walk in this door, there's the 2 suites, and then there's the 2 single rooms on each side, and that was mirrored on the end of the dormitory as well. So when you came through that door, there's 2 suites, 2 individual rooms. And everything else essentially was double rooms. So I had a double room, so it was me and 1 other girl living together in the same space. Now, these rooms were very, very narrow, like extremely narrow. Basically, the basic setup, you walk into the room, right? So you walk into the door, and immediately, if you are looking straight down, you see the window at the end of the room. We had like 1 window. Ours looked out into the coulees. It was very nice. Sometimes there was deer. There was like an owl. It was great. Nature. Yay. But basically, so you're looking into this room. Immediately to your left was 1 bed. Immediately to your right was 1 desk. And then after that, there came a wardrobe on the left, a wardrobe on the right, and then after that there was a bed on the left and a desk on the right. So it was very small, very simple, not really a whole lot of space. Like we had drawers and stuff underneath the beds and in the desk, so there was like a little bit of storage, but not really that much. Most of my boxes had to go on top or in my wardrobe. Now, my roommate, her bed was closest to the window and mine was closest to the door, which is fine. That's okay. Your beds get predetermined when you get there, and you're told when you check in, this is your bed. And that's fine, that's great. And like, this is your room and this is your key and all that jazz. So that was great. So I started the year, for one thing, to, you know, make matters even better. I arrived 5 days late to university. I didn't miss any classes, but I did miss all of new student orientation because I was in Africa with my family on a resort. It was great. I would way rather have been there than doing new student orientation. So I had no problem with missing 5 days, whatever. My mom had arranged for us to go and see the campus like before in June anyway, so I kind of knew what was happening and where I was going, and I had a day to go and like find my classes, and luckily all of mine were really close because theater. What I mean is that the university hall, so where we were all living, was really close to the theater department. So, and all my classes were basically in like the same floor. So that was great. My roommate, let's call her Martha. Martha was a kinesiology major, which I have no problem with. There was lots of kines majors on my floor. Not a whole lot of fine arts people. That's fine. Yeah. So Martha, along with being a kines major, played rugby, which is great. Sports are great. I have no problem with sports. All right. Now, Martha would get up for rugby practice around 5 in the morning. I don't know when her rugby practice was. I assume like 6 or 7. I don't know. But she would get up at 5 a.m. And you know, normally, for any of you who've lived with another person, like sharing the same physical space, usually when you have to get up really early and your roommate doesn't, you know, you be quiet and you try not to disturb them. And you know, you try not to be imposing. I was like silent when I was getting up and she was asleep. Silent. I would like change in the bathroom. I didn't want to make any noise at all. Yeah. Martha, however, would get up, turn on the light in the bedroom, like the big, huge overhead light in the bedroom at 5 a.m. and do her makeup in the mirror that was on the back of the door. I don't know why. You walked out of our door, the bathroom was 2 steps away. It was almost directly across from us. And then like the door that was actually across from us led into the common room. Like, which also had mirrors. Both perfectly reasonable places to do your makeup, where you will not disturb people because you will be in the bathroom and they are all in their room sleeping. A place to not do your makeup at 5 a.m. is in your room with the light on while your roommate is sleeping. Now, before anyone says anything, I didn't have class until like 9 or 10 some days because lots of theater classes were later in the afternoon because that's just kind of how a theater schedule runs, right? Like in some places you'll have rehearsal in the morning, but usually if you're just running on showtime, your shows are in the evening. You really don't have anything to do in the morning. So a lot of theater classes usually didn't start till 10. So I didn't have any plans of getting up until like, you know, 9:50 to run to my class. I like sleep. I did not really appreciate being woken up at 5 a.m. so that Martha could do her makeup in the back in the mirror. Also, why are you doing your makeup? You're about to go to rugby practice, where I assume you will be doing rugby and getting sweaty, and I don't understand why you'd want to do makeup for that, but I don't wear makeup, so what do I know? So, there was that. And here's the thing. Martha was a lovely person. She was really nice. I got really sick, like it was a cold, but it was like a really bad cold during the first couple months, and she was really nice. She'd make me soup and tea, and like she was really great. She just had some really horrendous habits, and I, being in first year and, you know, for the first time being away from my family, and I was 18 and like tiny, and I hated confrontation. Like, I still hate confrontation, but now I'm just better at, I don't know, rolling with it or ignoring it. But when I was 18, I hated confrontation so much. I would avoid it at all costs. Like, even if it was a complete inconvenience to me, it didn't matter. If it would avoid a confrontation, I'm cool with that. So I did not say anything about Martha, or to Martha, about the fact that the bathroom was literally 2 steps away and you could do your makeup there and that would be better. I didn't say anything. I just would roll over, try and go back to sleep. But the really interesting thing was that she would try and like put my covers over my head so that she wouldn't wake me up when she turned on the light. Which, I mean, it's the thought that counts, but if you're gonna go that far to put the covers over your roommate's head, maybe just take a step back and be like, maybe there's a way that I could do my makeup without turning on the light. She was quite an interesting person. Not only did she have rugby practice in the mornings, after rugby practice she would come home and she would like drop her rugby stuff in our room and like take a nap. Like before she even showered, she would just take a nap. So of course, if any of you, who I'm sure you are familiar with rugby and that sport, it's generally a lot of, you know, running and such like that. So you generally get pretty sweaty and disgusting. Yeah, so she wouldn't shower, she would just have a nap. So already that's gross because, I'm sorry, she smelled. As you do when you've had a really hard workout. I mean, if you don't, props to you. But so not only that, but she also has now dumped her sweaty, smelly rugby clothes in our room. And these are really tiny rooms. Like, there's not really a whole lot of ventilation, and we're not allowed to have candles. Because, you know, first year, we could burn down the dormitory or something. We didn't even have an oven. It was kind of a disaster. Plenty of fridges, microwave, stovetop, no oven. I digress. So, yeah, and like we had a storage room, but we had a couple of other people on the floor who did various sports. There was one who did hockey, there were some who were doing football, whatever. I don't know how many people had stuff in the storage room, but there wasn't really that much room in the storage room. But still, I'm sure there would have been room for Martha's rugby stuff if she had asked the RA if she could put it in there instead of putting it in our room. So that was her like sports stuff that irked me. But there was also, she would just leave for class and leave our door open. Now, as kind of time went on, I started spending a lot more time in the common room. So, I mean, because I didn't want to be in my room because she was always in there either sleeping or like eating, which I will come back to. So I spent a lot of time in the common room. So I'd like leave my laptop out in the common room. You know, in hindsight, probably not the greatest idea, but it never got stolen, so that's fine. So I mean, I didn't really, it's not that I had a problem with her leaving the door open, but I didn't really want the door to be left open because like, yes, we had, you know, doors on either side to get onto the actual floor, but a lot of times people would have their friends over, which was totally fine, but they'd have their friends in the common room, and that's like somebody that we don't know, we've never met them before. And like by this point we've like met just about everybody on the floor. We know people generally, and you know, if somebody stole something, like it would get dealt with pretty fast. But if it's like somebody's friend, then it's a lot harder to track. So I was really lucky and I had 2 amazing people who were living in the room next to me, and I just asked them one day, I was like, hey, because Martha she usually left for class or like left to do whatever while I was gone for class or like in the theater or something, so I couldn't come back all the time and check and make sure our door was closed. So I asked the 2 girls who were in the room next to us, I was like, hey, if you ever notice our door open, could you like close it? You know, I don't mind, like, we left our door unlocked a lot of times, but I was like, at least if it's just closed, then, you know, that's like some kind of protection. There's not just people like gawking at our stuff in there. And they were like, yeah, for sure, we do that anyway. And I was like, awesome, thank you, great. So that was fine. Although there was this one time where I got just really annoyed. It was like my last straw, and this was like my most aggressive moment in first year, which when I tell you, you will understand how like passive aggressive I was, and how unwilling to confront anybody. There was one time I was leaving for, I think it was just like we were going to a movie, or I don't know, I was leaving the dormitory for something, and I locked our door, knowing full well that Martha had not brought her keys, which meant that she would have to ask one of the RAs to let her in, which like really wasn't that big of a deal unless you were constantly forgetting your keys and then they start like charging you. But I mean, like, they live on the floor. It's not like you had to call, you know, RAD or something and like they had to walk outside and come get you, right? Like super easy. But it was like an inconvenience for her when she went to go and open the door and the door was locked. And then she like asked me about it and I was like, oh, sorry, I thought you had your keys. And that was like the only aggressive thing that I did ever, which is really not that aggressive. Think about it, just super passive aggressive. So anyway, eating. Martha would eat so loudly, and it wasn't even like she was slurping food, but she would chew. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I hate making this reference, but it sounded like a cow like eating grass. Like she would just crunch and I could hear it, and she would eat in a room in her bed at weird hours of the night. Like it'd be like 10:30 right at night and I'm like kind of wanting to go to sleep, and she's just like sitting there like chomping salad, and I'm like, oh my god, could you not? Like, why are you eating in here? We're gonna get mice. There was actually a floor above us that had mice, so like it's not like that was a rare thing. We will get mice, like stop. I never actually said that, but it was so annoying, and I cannot stand the sound of people chewing. Like if I can hear them chewing, I will go mad. I will literally put headphones in, I will leave the situation, I will just go away because it makes me snap. It's like one of my hugest pet peeves, and I just can't control the rage that I feel when all I can hear is someone chewing. And it's only bad if it's like silent and all I can hear is them chewing. Like if there's TV or like music or whatever happening, then like usually it's fine, I can focus on that. But if it's silent and all I can hear is you chewing, I'd strangle you. I mean, like now I wouldn't, and then I definitely wouldn't, but it makes me want to kill people a little bit. So she would always, every single night, apparently, she would eat dinner at like midnight. So I started staying out in the common room later and later and later and later. Now keep in mind that before this, before coming to university, I was usually asleep by like 11 because I'm lame and I just really like sleep. And then after going to university, now I like can't get to sleep till like 3 a.m. Thanks a lot. But so I would just stay in the common room like later and later, and I was like, oh, I don't have class till 9 and like I probably won't go to it, so whatever, I'll just sleep. Don't follow my like study habits because they were not great. Anyway, so I would just stay in the common room for a really long time and wait until she was either done eating, like wait until I saw her come out into the common room with her bowl, and then I would go get ready for bed because I knew that she was done eating, or I would just like wait until I thought maybe she was asleep and then I would like go to bed. And there was one time that I told her, I was like, hey, do you think you could go and eat that out in the kitchen? And I didn't, my excuse was, I didn't tell her the real reason, it was because her chewing was annoying me. I told her, you're making me really hungry and I need to go to sleep. But she did. She was like, oh, I'm sorry. And like went out to eat in the kitchen. And I was like, cool, that worked. Oh my God. Why didn't I do that before? But I mean, I don't think I would have been able to use the like, you're making me hungry excuse, you know, for the entire like 8 months that I was there. But anyway, yeah, there was like one night that she just wouldn't stop eating and I literally stayed outside in the hallway until like 1 a.m. Like, I think it was later than that. It was like 3 a.m. and I was like, oh my God, I need to sleep. Why is she still eating? And that was the same night that I told her like, hey, could you maybe eat in the kitchen? You're just making me hungry and I really need to sleep. But like that was the point where I was just desperate to like, I need to sleep, just stop. Martha also had a friend on the floor. She was someone who I think she lived in one of the suites, like at one end of our floor. she's lovely, whatever. Let's call this friend Emily. So Martha and Emily. Martha and Emily would sit in Martha's bed and watch The Bachelor, and this was at a time where I didn't watch The Bachelor. Yes, I do now, just because I like seeing where they go. Weird. But anyway, so they would like watch The Bachelor without headphones, just on her bed, which is like fine when, you know, like I'm doing stuff on my laptop and I have my headphones in, whatever. But like when I'm ready to go to sleep, I'd like turn off, because like the overhead light would be off and we each had like a lamp kind of over our bed. So I would turn off my lamp, which to anybody would be a signal, oh, she's like going to sleep now. Like they saw that I put my laptop down. They like saw that I turned off the lamp, right? Any normal person would be like, oh, the roommate's going to sleep. Like maybe we should wear headphones or like leave or go, you know, go somewhere else and like finish watching this. Not these two. No. Instead, they'll just continue on, and I'm like, cool, awesome. I guess I'll just listen to The Bachelor while I try and fall asleep. And then Emily turns, after about like, it's been about 15 minutes, and I've had the light off, and she kind of leans out to like look at me, and she's like, oh, are you trying to sleep? And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, oh, okay. Glad that we established that I was trying to sleep with you. Thanks for not changing anything you're doing. That's awesome. So, like, that was a great time. Yes, Martha was an interesting roommate, that's for sure. A lovely person. Again, like, nothing wrong with her as a person, just some really bad habits. And I don't know if she'd ever lived with somebody else before, like somebody not her family, and just, I don't know, whatever. 7 years ago now. I'm over it. Kind of. I mean, the one good thing that did come out of that was that it forced me to get out into the common room, and I actually made a lot of friends because of it. So, you know, thank you, Martha, in hindsight, for making me go make friends, because I didn't want to stay in my bedroom. Yeah, that's all for this storytime video. I think I'm going to start making a couple more of these, because I'm sort of, now that I'm out of university, I'm reflecting back on my experiences, and I realize that I have a lot of interesting, like, roommate stuff. I've lived with a lot of different people. Yeah, so stay tuned, and I'll probably have a couple more. Yeah, if you enjoyed this, if you feel my pain, if you've lived with somebody this crazy, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear some of your roommate horror stories, even though these weren't really horror stories, like, you know, horror. But feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear some of your experiences as well. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you want. I'm going to try and make more videos more regularly. I'm not going back to school, so I will have a little bit more time, hopefully, fingers crossed, coming up. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys.